Dragon Ball will always be my favorite anime of all time, forever, as long as I live. People could argue about if Dragon Ball was the best anime. They might argue that the storylines, the plots, animation wasn't the best, and that's fine, but I'm not really here to argue that today. Dragon Ball will just always be my favorite anime because of how much of a role it really played in my childhood and my development as a kid. The stories that I have because of Dragon Ball and the way that Dragon Ball influenced my life and the path that I took because I started to watch Dragon Ball is crazy. It took me a while to make this video because after Akira Toriyama died, I was like, bro, I saw all of these posts on Twitter and I guess everybody was really seeing, such an outpouring of love for Akira Toriyama, and they were talking about how much Dragon Ball really impacted their life, and it made me really sit down and think about just how much it impacted my life, my friends' lives, my family's lives, relatives and stuff. It really was a big defining moment, I would say, in the person who I became. Not because me watching Dragon Ball Z made me decide to become a certain person, no, but because of what that led to. For me personally, Dragon Ball led me into games. I wanted to play all of those Dragon Ball games, Dragon Ball Z games. I remember playing Dragon Ball Z Sagas when I was like 6 or 7 years old on PS2. Only the real ones, by the way, would remember what Dragon Ball Z Sagas is. If you know what that is, then I have the utmost respect for you because that game was amazing, right? I remember playing Budokai 1, Budokai 2, Shin Budokai, Budokai Tenkaichi, Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Ultimate Tenkaichi, Raging Blast 1, Raging Blast 2. I played basically every single Dragon Ball Z game growing up, and that led to me getting into more games, so everything kind of started off with me playing Dragon Ball Z games, and I kind of work in gaming now to a certain extent, so I feel like I could attribute that to me being obsessed with Dragon Ball Z. And it's crazy just how much one person, Akira Toriyama, could really influence the lives of so many. Dragon Ball Z to me is more than just an anime. It's kind of like a period in time. It's kind of like a I'm trying to find the words, but it's more than just a single anime. It really was my childhood. It really was like a important development factor in my life. Every single time my brother and I would get a new Dragon Ball Z game and we would see, the Dragon Ball Z intros, because every single game would have a different intro. We would literally get up and start like fighting as if we were Saiyans and shit, pretending to be in that intro. That was like a ritual for us, right? I remember coming home from school when I was like 9, 10, and waiting on Nicktoons for the new Dragon Ball Z Kai episode to air. When it was the Frieza saga or the Cell saga, Android saga, Saiyan arc. Like, I remember just watching everything coming home from school on Nicktoons and just waiting to see what new Dragon Ball Z Kai episode would air. So the death of Akira Toriyama is a big deal, and it kind of shows how much of a big deal it is just based on social media response. Like, everybody is talking about this. Everybody is kind of giving their own stories, about how important Dragon Ball Z was to their development. Because even if you want to say that Dragon Ball Z wasn't the best anime, you could say that. You could go ahead and say how there are so many better animes out there, so much better, storylines and character plots and stuff in different anime. And I would necessarily agree with you. I wouldn't say that Dragon Ball Z is the most like thought-provoking anime out there or the most like gut-wrenching, It definitely isn't. But the impact that Dragon Ball Z had, I would say, is probably second to none in terms of anime. It just impacted everybody. Everybody was watching Dragon Ball Z at some point. And if you weren't, then I don't know what to say. You kind of missed out. It was kind of just like a moment in time that everybody could relate to. Everybody could talk about. Bro, I remember watching that Frieza saga when, Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time. I remember watching, Frieza begging Goku for forgiveness and begging Goku to spare him. And Frieza turned around and still tried to kill him. And Goku had to, like, chop him in half. I remember watching when Trunks first appeared in the Android saga and Frieza came back with King Cold. I remember watching, like, Gohan go Super Saiyan 2 for the very first time against Cell. All of these memories that we have, I could literally build a friendship with anybody who watched Dragon Ball Z because those memories are so engraved in our minds, and that makes sense. It's more than just anime. It's more than just a simple show that we watched growing up. It kind of shaped a lot of us and our identities in a sense, you know what I mean? I was that kid who was, going to the school library and searching up Super Saiyan 5, Super Saiyan 6, Super Saiyan 100. Like, what would that look like? And I was so naive back then, I actually thought that all of those Super Saiyan images were real. If you weren't a kid who was going in your school library and going on the computers and trying to figure out, like, what Super Saiyan 10 looked like, then what even was your childhood? Not to mention the countless animes that Dragon Ball Z probably inspired. I'm not sure exactly which animes Dragon Ball Z inspired, but I'm sure that some of our favorite animes out there simply would not exist if Dragon Ball Z wasn't a thing, because I feel like Akira inspired a lot of creators. A lot of creative people were inspired by him just going so hard on Dragon Ball Z. So people who like to be like, bro, this anime is way better than Dragon Ball Z, or this anime is so much, more planned out and scripted, and the character development is so much better than Dragon Ball Z. Bro, that anime probably wouldn't even have existed if it weren't for Dragon Ball Z. Not just because that creator being inspired by Dragon Ball Z and the story, but also because of the success of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z was incredibly successful, one of the most successful animes of all time, if not the most successful anime of all time, right? So because of its success, of course, studios and stuff in Japan were given the green light to try projects that were similar to that. I'm pretty sure a lot of really successful animes were given a chance because everybody saw how successful Dragon Ball Z was, especially in the Western world. So Akira really was a trailblazer. He really was one of one. Not to mention the memes that we got from Dragon Ball Z. Now, some of those memes were kind of crazy, like that Cell meme. That Frieza meme, and he's like, niggas be wildin'.
Really, look! Niggas be wildin'!
That Frieza meme, I be cracking up every single time I see that Frieza meme. I don't know why, because Frieza was low-key racist. We all know Frieza was racist, right? Frieza was a racist cunt. Frieza was racist. He was calling all these Saiyans monkeys and stuff. He was racist.
Hello, monkeys!
Big up Frieza though. I still fuck with Frieza. Like, Frieza was low-key my favorite character growing up. I don't know why I always gravitated towards the evil characters in Dragon Ball Z. I was always rooting for them low-key. Even though I know that, they were going to lose, because that's just how the story has to go. I know Cell was going to lose some way, somehow, even though I didn't know when I was watching for the very first time. I knew that Frieza was going to lose. I knew that, Majin Buu and Super Buu and Kid Buu, all of them were going to lose. I was still rooting for them because I feel like they just had such insane like fighting styles and abilities and moves and shit. Dragon Ball Z really impacted culture in a different way. It really impacted culture in a completely different way. It's just such a big statement piece. It's such a important anime. And if you never watched Dragon Ball Z before, I'm gonna say you should watch it. Not because it's the most insane anime out there, but I just feel like if you like anime, you should watch Dragon Ball Z. Don't watch the entire series from Dragon Ball, and you don't have to watch all that. Just watch Dragon Ball Z, Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, Cell Saga or Android Saga, and the Buu Saga. Then after, you might want to go and watch Super as well. You might want to watch some movies. But I feel like in honor of Akira Toriyama and what he did, and how pivotal Dragon Ball Z was for so many years, and how pivotal it was for anime in general, you need to watch Dragon Ball Z. Out of respect. Real nigga shit.